Morning, everybody. So today we have Tony Harkins with Tower Rents. He is a residential leasing manager. Tony's been doing the residential leasing for 12 years. For the last 4 years, he's owned his own company called Tower Rents, as I mentioned. Tony, welcome, and thank you so very much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Maggie. Good to be here.
Wow. So this is shaping up to be quite an interesting time.
Indeed.
All of us are living inside our homes now. Our homes have become everything to us. So how has this COVID-19 pandemic affected you and your industry?
Well, to start off with, I'd like to quote a Marine Corps saying, adapt and overcome. The mantra I tell owners is romance your current tenants. And I will touch on that in just a moment. What I've seen in the marketplace, I do have a handful of vacancies right now. I've seen inquiries, both calls in to me and email inquiries from prospective renters drop about 80 to 85% now.
Oh, wow.
There are not people just shopping around. The few people that do contact me to see my vacancies are folks that have to move, either from receiving a new job in San Francisco and moving from somewhere else. Those that are living in San Francisco or the Bay Area now that are having their owners of the property move back into the property that they're renting or move in. And lastly, a minority of prospective renters are those few that are bargain hunters. They are looking aggressively for real bargains, and they are, I would say, maybe 1/4 of the inquiries, the few inquiries that I'm getting. So let's go back to romance your current tenants. The tenant in your property right now is extremely valuable because of the low demand from prospective renters out there. If we have some tenants moving out because of lost jobs, we might see higher supply. And demand, in my opinion, will shrink because demand over the last few years has been driven by new renters coming in to their new jobs from all over the country. And because of the reversal of those dynamics as far as employment, that primary sector of renters will dry up quite a bit. If your current tenants contact you, and I see a few savvy tenants coming to my owners and wanting to negotiate rents, negotiate them, even if it is a rent-controlled unit, because it will be very difficult and possibly a protracted timeline to find a replacement tenant for that property if your current tenant moves out because you refuse to negotiate rents. And like they say, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Are you, by any chance, seeing anything? You know, we are now living in our homes, and so if you are in a situation where you have multiple tenants, are you seeing some of those tenants wanting to get out because it's just too claustrophobic for them to be living with other people 24/7?
No. Over the last 2-3 years, I've seen, properties that have 3-4 bedrooms. Tenants, I don't call them roommates per se. I call them professional sharing and rental space. They see a property like that as a small multi-unit building where they happen to have to share the common areas. I see these professionals conducting their regular workday in their bedrooms. And that brings an item that we'll discuss in just a minute. It's about where I see the future of residential renting in San Francisco.
So you've been doing this for 12 years. You have gone through the previous recession in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
How does the current situation compare to back then?
In my opinion, there's no comparison. 2008, the only real repercussion that I witnessed in the rental industry was reduction in price. A quick example, the building that I manage in Noe Valley that I live at, 45 units, a one-bedroom unit prior to 2008, rented for $2,000, $2,100. During that year of 2008, we saw one bedrooms in this building drop down to $1,700. And now, fast forward to prior to COVID-19, they are renting for $3,500 a month. So there was not a widespread unemployment situation. 16 million jobless claims since COVID started domestically. There's a prediction that I heard on NPR this morning that half of small businesses will close their doors permanently. That didn't happen in 2008. So we're really looking at a new paradigm, in my opinion, where there's not a comparison to 2008, except for maybe pricing, and we haven't seen how pricing will be affected going forward. Again, I think that we can adapt if you approach it with an open mind, and we don't really have a choice but to figure out how to make this all work.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of questions are you fielding from your clients, the landlords?
Well, surprisingly, I am not getting that many calls from my landlords. The ones that I am getting are if they have not received rent, they are asking if they have to forgive rent that is due, and you do not. You can, according to the San Francisco Apartment Association, the general concept is you can extend those payments of back rent, and at your option as an owner, you can decide to waive late fees, for example. And as many of you owners know, in San Francisco, and actually statewide, there's a moratorium on evictions. So if you do have a tenant that is not paying, again, romance them. Figure out how to make it work. Don't be confrontational and litigious at this juncture. Will not be a good situation. The wild card right now is possible rent strike. I do not know how likely that is. And a rent strike is when organizations organize renters and convince them to not pay rent because of the current COVID-19 situation. I don't have specifics on how that is developed at this point. San Francisco Apartment Association has mentioned that there is some activity on that front. That could be potentially quite damaging. On the flip side, if you have a quality rental and you have good professional tenants, well, they pay their bills in whatever way they can. I think where you'll see a rent strike, if it ends up happening, is in lower priced units, that are occupied maybe by renters who do not yet know how valuable their landlord reference is throughout their life. The resource that I would point owners to or landlords to is the San Francisco Apartment Association, and also the California Apartment Association. They also have form letters for their members that you can use to give to your tenants, and they can outline specifics on what tenants are required to provide an owner if tenants are needing to defer their rent, and all of that.
So in closing, Tony, what do you think needs to happen to return to a sense of normalcy?
Normalcy as we know it, erase it, forget it. We will have in my belief, new sense of normalcy. And what comes to mind is the generation that has gone through the Great Depression, whereby throughout the rest of their lifetime, they have a sense of frugality, a sense of preparedness, and a sense of making do versus being lavish. And I think that will be the new tenant mindset, whereby you will need to provide as an owner quality, clean, well-presented properties to woo those prospective tenants into your property, but don't expect to be able to garner those very high rents from the tech workers that had lots of money in their pockets and were willing to spend it. I think even the that group, despite their wealth, will want to see quite a bit more value in the rental that they choose. And owners should really shift their mindset, not only in pricing, but really once that tenant is in the property, make sure they're very well taken care of, to have them feel at the end of their initial tenancy after a year that they were not well taken care of. And especially if it's combined with a rent increase notice, they will definitely find better value. Especially the younger generation, which are primarily the workers. They're very mobile. They don't have a sense of ownership. They don't usually own cars. They don't own and they see rent as an expense, and an apartment or a condo as something that's replaceable if they're not feeling that they're getting value. As far as a general shift in trend, which is a silver lining in all of this, I really feel that employers are really going to recognize that their employees are much more efficient, much more productive when they're working from home versus in the office. And that I've seen with people that prior to COVID-19 that I've had casual conversations with. You know, a lot of times they say, I'm in meetings all day and I never get any work done. Well, when do you get work done? On the train to work and on the train home, or at home. So I think companies will see a real savings and will modify their structure in two ways. One being getting rid of a lot of office space that they currently have their employees working in, and have their employees work full time or most of the time from home, and more importantly, possibly subsidizing the tenant's monthly rent payment, which could help offset that tenant's need for real value and lower rent prices. When they have part of their rent being paid for by their employer, it might help buoy rental prices in San Francisco and in the Bay Area in general. So.
Very good, Tony. So we got to wrap up. Thank you so very much for your time. Appreciate it. And if anybody wants to get in contact with Tony, his email, tony@towerrents.com. The website is towerrents.com. Thank you so very much. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay home.
You too, Maggie. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.